A restaurant chain rolled out a brand new logo, and 8 days later they killed it, fired the design agency and pretended it never happened. That's the fastest reversal in modern restaurant history, and it's only one of 10 times a major chain did something that broke every rule in the industry. Some of these moves saved a brand. Some of them cost a company almost $100 million in a single week. I pulled all 10 straight from real reporting. No rumors, no guesses. And by the end, you'll know exactly which move worked, which one blew up in their face, and what every single one of them actually has in common. Let's start with something that sounds small but is actually kind of genius. In early 2025, bird flu wiped out over 13 million egg-laying hens in just a few months. Egg prices went through the roof, jumping something like 50% in a single year. Every restaurant chain in America that serves breakfast got hit by this. Most of them just quietly raised menu prices across the board and hoped nobody noticed. Waffle House did something almost no other chain has done. Instead of raising prices on everything, they added a 50-cent surcharge specifically on eggs. Just eggs. Nothing else on the menu moved. So if you ordered a burger, you paid the same price as before. Order 2 eggs, you paid $1 more. It sounds like a small distinction, but it's actually a pretty transparent move. Waffle House basically told customers exactly why their bill went up and exactly how much. No hiding it in a vague price increase. No blaming inflation in general. Just eggs got expensive, so eggs cost more. And the surcharge was designed to disappear the moment egg prices came back down. Most chains would never do this because it draws attention to a cost problem instead of burying it. But Waffle House runs on a reputation for straight talk and no frills, so it actually fit their brand. It's the kind of move that only works if your customers already trust you to be upfront with them. Now here's where things get interesting. In August 2025, Cracker Barrel unveiled a brand new logo. They stripped out the classic image of the old-timer leaning against a barrel and went with a simple text-only design. This was part of a much bigger plan, something like $600 to $700 million set aside over several years to modernize the restaurants themselves. The backlash was almost instant. Within days, the company's stock had dropped by nearly $100 million in market value. Customers flooded social media, saying the new look felt cold and stripped away everything nostalgic about the brand. It became such a big story that even the president weighed in publicly, praising the company when they eventually reversed course. And that's the part that makes this genuinely rare. Less than a week after unveiling the new logo, Cracker Barrel announced they were bringing back the old one. The old-timer was staying. A few weeks later, they also canceled the store redesign plans entirely, and shortly after that, they cut ties with the design agency they'd hired just months earlier. Companies redesign logos all the time. Almost none of them admit defeat this fast or this completely. Gap tried something similar back in 2010, and it took them 6 days to revert, which was considered fast at the time. Cracker Barrel basically beat that record. What this tells you is that for a chain built entirely on nostalgia and familiarity, messing with the visual identity people associate with comfort food and small town, Americana is a much bigger risk than most executives probably expected. Here's a chain that's been quietly rewriting the rulebook since 1948. In-N-Out and McDonald's actually started around the same time, just 45 minutes apart in California. McDonald's went all in on franchising, and by the mid-1970s, already had thousands of locations across the country. In-N-Out had 18 today. McDonald's has more than 14,000 locations in the US alone. In-N-Out has a few hundred, all still owned and operated directly by the company. No franchisees, no independent owners cutting corners to save money. Every single location is run the exact same way because the Snyder family, who still owns the company, has refused to franchise or take it public for over 75 years. The current president, Lindsay Snyder, has said pretty directly that the only reason a family would take a private company public is for the money. And that's not what her family wants. Going public means answering to shareholders who expect constant growth and profit maximization, which usually leads to cost cutting, cheaper ingredients, and rapid expansion that sacrifices quality. In-N-Out has intentionally stayed small on purpose. Their whole supply chain depends on stores being within a few hundred miles of their distribution centers because they never freeze anything. That's also why you still can't find one on the East Coast. It's a business model that would make most Wall Street analysts nervous, and yet it's kept the brand almost untouchably beloved for 3 generations. Every single Chick-fil-A location in the country closes on Sundays. Everyone. That's one of the busiest days for restaurants nationwide, and Chick-fil-A just opts out completely. Every single week, no exceptions. This tradition goes back to the company's founder and has never changed. Despite the chain growing into one of the largest fast food companies in America. But the more interesting story is what happened when they tried to expand overseas. Chick-fil-A first attempted to open a location in the UK back in 2019 in a shopping mall in Reading. It lasted 6 months before the mall didn't renew the lease. Following organized protests over the company's past donations to groups opposed to same-sex marriage, most chains would probably read that as a sign to stay away from that market entirely. Chick-fil-A didn't. In 2025, 6 years later, they came back. They opened new locations in Leeds, Belfast, and eventually London, this time going in with local owner-operators and a stated plan to invest more than $100 million in the UK over the next decade. Whatever you think about the politics involved, from a pure business standpoint, walking back into a market that publicly rejected you 6 years earlier takes a certain kind of confidence. Most brands cut their losses. Chick-fil-A treated it as unfinished business. This next one is a heavier story, but it matters because of how rare this type of decision actually is. In 2022, Panera launched a line of highly caffeinated drinks called charged lemonades, marketed alongside their regular lemonade, despite containing caffeine levels close to their darkest roast coffee. Starting in late 2023, the company was hit with multiple wrongful death lawsuits. Families alleged that customers with underlying heart conditions had gone into cardiac arrest after drinking it, in part because the drink wasn't clearly labeled as a high-caffeine energy beverage. A university student in Philadelphia and a man in Florida both died after consuming it, according to the lawsuits. For months, Panera kept the drink on the menu anyway. Companies facing active litigation are often advised by lawyers to avoid pulling a product immediately, because it can look like an admission of guilt. But by May 2024, the pressure had built up enough that Panera discontinued charged lemonade nationwide, framing it as part of a broader menu overhaul rather than a direct response to the lawsuits. They eventually settled all the related cases while continuing to deny wrongdoing in court filings. It's a difficult story, but it's also a real example of a chain being forced to weigh legal strategy against public trust, and eventually choosing to just remove the product at the center of the controversy entirely. Wendy's is doing 2 things at once that don't usually go together. On one hand, they announced they're closing somewhere between 5 and 6% of their US locations in the first half of 2026, which works out to roughly 300 to 350 restaurants. That's on top of the 240 or so they already closed back in 2024. On the other hand, Wendy's has been one of the most aggressive chains in the country when it comes to rolling out AI-powered drive-through ordering. While they're shrinking their physical footprint, they're pouring resources into automating how customers order at the locations that remain, all part of what the company is calling its turnaround plan. Most struggling chains pick one lane, either cut costs by closing stores or invest in new technology and hope it grows the business. Wendy's is doing both at the same time, which is a pretty high-stakes bet. If the AI ordering system genuinely improves speed and accuracy, the fewer remaining stores could end up performing much better per location. If it doesn't land with customers, they've spent money on tech while also shrinking their overall presence. Near the end of 2025, some McDonald's locations quietly started posting signs telling cash-paying customers that their totals would be rounded up or down because of a shortage of pennies. This wasn't an official company-wide policy, more like a scattered test at individual locations, but it was still enough to get people talking. The reaction was mixed at best. A lot of customers saw it as a cynical way to nudge prices up under the excuse of a coin shortage, especially at a company the size of McDonald's. Whether it becomes permanent policy is still unclear, but no other major fast food chain has publicly tested anything quite like it. At the same time, McDonald's has been pushing forward with a much bigger drive-through overhaul, aimed at cutting down rush hour congestion using improved traffic flow and AI-assisted ordering. They also brought the Big Arch Burger, which first launched in Portugal, onto the permanent US menu in 2026, after testing it in Chicago. For a company with more than 14,000 US locations, even a small experimental change like penny rounding ends up becoming national news, just because of how much attention every McDonald's decision gets. Red Lobster has spent the last couple of years trying to climb back from a rough stretch that included a widely mocked, endless shrimp promotion and an eventual bankruptcy filing. Now, as part of its recovery plan heading into 2026, the company announced it will be reducing its workforce by around 200 employees, in part to make room for AI-driven efficiency in its operations. What makes this one stand out is the timing. Cutting jobs while trying to rebuild customer trust and stabilize the brand is a genuinely risky move. Most companies in the middle of a comeback story try to lead with warmth, better food, friendlier service, things that feel human. Red Lobster is leaning into automation at the exact moment it needs people to believe the brand is turning things around. If it works, and the chain becomes leaner and more consistent, it could be remembered as a smart, necessary pivot. If it doesn't, it risks looking like a company cutting corners, right when customers are being asked to give it a second chance. Todd Graves had a simple idea, a restaurant that only served chicken fingers. Just chicken fingers, fries, coleslaw, and dipping sauce. When he pitched this to investors, they turned him down, because a one-item menu sounded far too limited to survive in a competitive fast food market. So Graves funded it himself. He worked as a boilermaker in Louisiana refineries and took salmon fishing jobs in Alaska, saving up enough money to open the first location without outside investors. Decades later, Raising Cane's has grown into one of the fastest expanding chicken chains in the country, with plans to open around 100 new locations in a single year and a long-term goal of pushing past 600 locations by the end of the decade. Nearly every successful fast food chain eventually expands its menu to capture more customers, adding breakfast, adding salads, adding limited time items to chase trends. Raising Cane's has mostly refused to do that. The menu is still built almost entirely around one product, done as well as they can possibly do it. In an industry obsessed with menu variety, betting everything on doing one thing extremely well turned out to be the unconventional move that worked. Most fast casual chains expand internationally by targeting markets that already look similar to their home base. Familiar food culture, similar dining habits. Chipotle took a different route. In 2025, the company announced it would be expanding into South Korea and Singapore in 2026, and part of the reasoning they gave publicly was the growing popularity of Chipotle among K-pop stars during their US tours. It's a genuinely unusual justification for a major international expansion decision. Instead of leading with market research about burrito demand in Seoul, the story became about celebrity culture and fan enthusiasm driving brand awareness across an ocean. At the same time, domestically, Chipotle has been building out an entire protein-focused menu, responding to customers, tracking macros and using GLP-1 medications, with items ranging widely in protein content and calories. Whether the K-pop connection actually translates into long-term success in Asian markets remains to be seen. But it's a clear example of a chain reading cultural momentum rather than traditional market data as a signal for where to expand next. So here's that question from the start. What do all 10 of these moves actually have in common? On the surface, they look completely different. A surcharge on eggs, a cancelled logo, a refusal to franchise, an AI hiring push during layoffs. But underneath, every one of them broke the same basic rule. They all bet that they understood their customers better than the standard playbook did. And the Cracker Barrel story is the clearest proof of what happens when that bet goes wrong. A logo redesign is a tiny, almost cosmetic decision in the grand scheme of running a restaurant chain. But it revealed something huge. Customers weren't just buying biscuits and gravy. They were buying a specific feeling of familiarity and nostalgia. Mess with that feeling even slightly, and you can lose almost $100 million in market value in a matter of days. Compare that to In-N-Out or Raising Cane's, who bet on staying stubbornly simple, and it mostly paid off. Or Waffle House, who bet that honesty about a price increase would land better than hiding it, and it did. The chains that read their own customers correctly turned a risky move into a defining strength. The ones that misjudged it paid for it fast and publicly. If you're into stories about what's actually happening behind the scenes at America's biggest food chains, hit subscribe. I dig into stuff like this every single week. The moves nobody's really talking about until they blow up.